Hi, I'm Karen MacNeil, and welcome to WineSpeed.com's People to Know, insider interviews with the most fascinating and important people in the wine business. And today we're here with Nick Farr from by Farr and Farr Rising in the Moorabool Valley of Victoria. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about Wines by Farr to begin with. It has sort of a cult following in Australia, doesn't it?
It does. I think it branches from my father's long association with Pinot Noir, and particularly in the Moorabool Valley, which is a sort of a sub-region of Geelong, and Geelong being an hour southwest of Melbourne. It's not a region that's particularly recognised for grape production in general. It's very much broadacre farming, but my father decided that it was where he wanted to grow and express Pinot Noir and Chardonnay because of the amount of limestone and the diversity of soils that we have there, which is quite significant when you look at the soil types of other regions that may have altitude or higher rainfall, which are all within that dress circle of Melbourne. Geelong is very diverse, but very challenging at the same time.
Yeah. Pinot Noir in Australia, I think, suffice it to say, it might be a bit misunderstood. What do you think is the misconception about it?
A misconception? Perhaps that because there's so much Shiraz being drunk by Americans that there's still that Australian Pinot must just be juicy. It must just have simplicity about it and a lot of forwardness. And I think Australian Pinot's now come to a point where it's not recognisable of Australian origin because there's not enough great expressions being brought out into an international market. But for the producers, the 2 or 3 great producers in each one of these regions, they understand that vine maturity is very important. They understand that vitality in Pinot is very important. It's not just about the primary fruit, and there's so much sunshine we have in Australia, therefore sunshine in the glass. So trying to have subtleties in Pinot, which then creates this illusion of, for people to understand it, they're not sure where to place it. And I think we're not Oregon, we're not California, we're certainly not Burgundy. There's certainly a personality about our wines that needs to be discovered, and it's only just happening now. I think this is the most important time for Pinot and Chardonnay from Australia is in the present moment that we're in.
The wines that I've been tasting, including yours, have such finesse and delicacy. I mean, they are anything but the sort of standard version of Australian wine. It must be very exciting for you.
It is, but I completely removed myself. All I wanted to do was play tennis in America, and all of a sudden my father is making me hoe weeds at the age of 15. And it's been a labour of love more recently, but it was just labour for a long period of time. When you grow up on that farm, there comes a point where you actually understand why your father's so passionate about something. And the moment for me was perhaps in 1998, there was a hailstorm that came through and completely wiped him out. And to see the passion that he had screaming at the clouds was incredible. But the camaraderie of Australians to have Dad make Shiraz from Henschke, to have Bowen Cabernet from Coonawarra, to have Pinot come from some of the great producers in Australia, just shows how tight the industry is and how far we're all looking to push forward to be recognised as a significant region, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh my God, that must have been extremely moving to you as a young man watching that.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah.
My father doesn't show emotion. We don't hug. So to see him crying was a very moving moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, both you and your father have also, you're not parochial about it. I mean, you've worked in Burgundy, you've had a lot of international experience in other countries. What have other countries sort of taught you?
It's something we don't like to talk too much about because I think people can get hung up on the amount of vintages that we may have done at Domain Dujac. And Domain Dujac is certainly the biggest influence on our family, and not just in a wine sense. The way of living, the fact that you drink wine while you prepare food, you drink wine cooking food, you drink wine together at the table, and that is not something that's that common in Australia. So that way of living was very important to our lifestyle and the understanding of different nationalities, different different winemaking techniques has then led us to go to California, to go to Argentina, to go to different regions. But we're perhaps working in Cristom, or Dad working at Calera or at Bon Climat. Initially it was about just seeing what the new world would be doing, and it came very apparent that it was all about equipment, the money that was spent on equipment, rather than the very strong thumbprint that you would see in some of the great Burgundian domains, where I think there's a lighter hand. There's that patience and that understanding that you don't have to do something, where in America it was a lot more about what can we do next?
Yeah.
How can we make this wine greater?
Yeah.
So I think that comes with a confidence in the fruit that you're growing and
Yeah.
the understanding of your vineyards. And it's only now that we take this information back, and particularly in Burgundy, what are they looking for in their vineyards? What are they looking for in their sites? So therefore now we are looking for vine maturity, very important, and trying to have that mineral undertone to try and have vitality in our wines.
Vitality is such... I'm so excited about the idea that this notion that wine is alive is talked about so much more today than it was even 5 or 10 years ago. And you can sort of sense when a wine is either dead or has a kind of lit from within quality.
Yes. So does that originate from people now being more aware of having lively soils? And we did have an example of Gamay where it was a vineyard that I inherited, and the compaction, the life of the soil just wasn't there. Herbicide had been used on it for 20 years, and there was a lot of reduction. There was no vitality or austerity to this wine. And after 10 years of farming this, working the soil, being able to turn the soil with microorganisms, creating a lot of mulch, aeration, and now this wine is alive, and the fermentation process is just absolutely ideal. And it's far more aromatic, it's far more expressive.
Yeah.
So Dad's philosophy for viticulture has not changed a lot, but we're always looking to evolve. How can we grow better fruit? And to the point now where I'm looking at not only what clone, what rootstock works best in a black soil versus a red, but trellising methods. Like the black soil holds so much more heat, radiant heat, so we want the fruiting wire higher off the ground so you don't get that effect of heat overnight. Yet the red soil has greater humidity, and so we have the fruiting wire closer to the ground. So I want that X factor that I think Burgundy certainly has, that je ne sais quoi, and I think it stems from the humidity around the bunches. Trellising heights, so whether we've got 800 mils of canopy or 1.2 metres of canopy, and with the vine density that we have, the 800 mils means we're slowing down photosynthesis and ripening, but it also means that we're not creating shading on the next row. So
Right. Yeah.
there's so many different levels of viticulture and where we want to take it, and still it's what suits our environment, where you have Macedon, you have Mornington, you have Yarra Valley, that are such different beasts to what we are, but our expression is our expression. It is our soil, it's our wine, and I don't believe in the notion that our wine is purely made in the vineyard. There's still a very strong presence. There's our personality. Depends what side of the bed you wake up on. It depends what you drank last night, who you drank it with, and what you ate. I think all these things contribute to what we want to do into the future.
Yeah. Now, is there a variety, because I know you grow more than just Pinot Noir, is there a variety that is almost like a teacher, right? A variety that causes you to learn some lessons?
I think Gamay is the one at the moment, because the way you need to handle whole bunch fermentation if you're going to do a carbonic fermentation, and the way that we could use less sulfur going forward, so generating so much gas, and the extraction happens so naturally because under its own weight and its own pressure of those gases and the weight of the fruit. The dissolved CO2 seems to be in that wine, and the wine seems to be far more stable than perhaps something that we've had to do a lot more extraction work on a Pinot Noir tank. So that's interesting. Chardonnay is perhaps a variety that it's all about trying to maintain acidity, and looking at picking dates is perhaps to retain natural acidity is far more important with Chardonnay. Why aren't we looking for that in Pinot? Pinot, we still need to generate enough flavour, but picking date would be something that we need to experience more, which comes down to the amount of moisture you have in the soil and whether or not you've had to irrigate because you have a heat wave coming. So Game's still the one. That's the challenging one. We've planted Nebbiolo, we've planted a little bit of Garganega. So Dad's thing was that in the late 70s he planted Merlot, Malbec, Cabernet, Shiraz, Pinot, Chardonnay to see what was actually going to best express. It wasn't just I'm going to make Pinot. And I feel as though my children, if they choose to, 40 years from now will say, we certainly shouldn't be growing Pinot anymore. Maybe Nebbiolo is the variety that best suits the climatic conditions and shows the finesse of our terroir.
So your father, last question, your father is well known and very famous in Australia. If he were sitting here, would he say he's proud of the wines you're making?
Never in front of me. Never in front of me. So I've only ever had one compliment from my father in my life, and he was going on a 3-month fishing trip where you cannot get him on phone, and he threw a note out the window and said, "Congratulations on 98 points, still 2 points off perfect."
Oh!
And that's the sort of man he is.
Oh man, that's tough.
He got banned from every tennis tournament. Mum would not let him come because he'd cheer against me. But he's created, I love him, and he's created a beast where I'm just so determined. Not determined to impress him, but just so determined to keep driving his theories, his passion forward. Yeah.
Nick, thank you. And our full interview with Nick Farr from Farr Wines by Farr will be on winespeed.com's People to Know page. You'll really want to read it. Check it out.